In the highest of your honor, thank you for joining us. We're honored to have a privilege to speak with respected Elder Ernie Crey from the Stolo Nation. We thank you for joining us. We're at the Peace Arch. Please start off with who you're from, who you are, and where you're from with the Fisheries, please.
Yeah, I'm the Fisheries advisor for the Stalo Tribal Council, and the village I come from is called Chiam, which is part of the larger Palolt tribe, which in turn is part of the larger Stalo Nation. We're located out in the valley on the banks of the Fraser River near Chilliwack, British Columbia.
Would you be able to state the First Nations position with fish farms, please?
Well, our First Nation, like so many other First Nations along the coast and up and down the entire length of the Fraser River, are very concerned about fish farms and the possibility that over time, as a result of viral or bacterial transfer from fish farms, might contaminate wild salmon stocks. And we could lose a significant part of the Fraser River wild salmon runs in that kind of a situation. So we're ever vigilant. We're always watching what's going on with salmon farms. We're always crossing our fingers and hoping that there isn't a major incident on this coast. There's no guarantee there won't be, so that's why we're concerned as any other First Nation, as concerned as many other Canadians are about disease transfer, bacterial transfer from salmon farms to wild salmon stocks. Wild salmon in this province are an important part of our heritage and the heritage now of all other British Columbians. And we can ill afford to lose these beautiful wild fish. They go up the Fraser River. It's the largest single salmon-bearing river in the world. We cannot afford to lose wild salmon.
In the position of the government, they're announcing currently that the sockeye is coming back by the millions. Where's the fish?
Well, we were expecting, it's true the sockeye are now in the Fraser River. The earliest run was the early Stewart run of sockeye. It's come back weaker than was forecast. So now we're anxiously awaiting the early summer run sockeye. We hope that they come back in the numbers forecasted. Not only ourselves, but a lot of other British Columbians who have a place for themselves in the fishery, whether it's the commercial fishery or the sport fishery or the Aboriginal fishery. And then, of course, the summer runs and then the late sockeye runs. We don't know what tomorrow will look like. There's been significant failures in the forecasts of the returns of sockeye salmon, some of which have really devastated our communities because science is just not at that state now where we, British Columbians, can place a lot of confidence in salmon forecasts. I hope that picture changes in the future, but in order for that to happen, we have to encourage Ottawa, which doesn't seem to be interested in wild salmon, to actually spend more money looking at these fish populations, studying them, making sure that there's the habitat of these fish are protected, and also to take a long, hard look at what they're doing with regard to their policies for feedlots, really, for salmon along the coast. We believe they need to take a long, hard look at that before something catastrophic happens on this coast.
In the spirit of safety and protection for people that may not know, and fish farms, is there a list of stores or restaurants or something serving fish farm?
There's hardly a major food chain, a major retail company in this province that doesn't serve Atlantic farm salmon raised on the Pacific coast here in British Columbia. There is a campaign to get those retail outlets, the smaller ones and the major ones, to not stock their shelves with those fish. I understand they're having some success, the people engaged in the campaign, and quite frankly, we need to see more of that. We want people to to value wild salmon stocks, make sure that they're there in the future, make sure that they come back in greater abundance, and that they shun farm salmon for wild salmon, which are the best salmon to eat.
In closing, an inspiration note to the public. And I have one more question after that.
Well, right now we're at a place where, and I've said this to people before, I don't come to rallies or I don't go to meetings to complain. When I come to rallies like this or go to meetings where we're talking about salmon, what I'm interested in doing with people, and we've already made a start on the Fraser River, is working with them to actually do something, not just sit back and complain about things that spook us, things that scare us. We actually have to start taking action, and that means getting organized, educating the public, putting pressure on Ottawa through our members of parliament or MLAs in the area. These are the practical things that will make these politicians and policymakers get off their duffs and do something. That's the language they speak, the language of power and votes and public influence and a lot of attention from the media. That's the language they speak. They don't speak the language of let's do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. The language they speak is that if enough pressure is put on them, they'll do the right thing for the wrong reasons. And what I mean by that is they need to be scared, frightened into doing the right thing, and that's when they take action. And we can only get them scared and anxious if they feel their seat in Parliament or the provincial legislature of this province is in doubt by voters. And that's the language they know and understand. And that's where we have to go to.
Awesome. If the public would like further information or contact you directly?
They can. I'm a counselor with the Chiam First Nation out in near Chilliwack, just east of Chilliwack. Out in the valley, we're putting into practice the things that I'm talking about. We're working with the anglers that come and fish amongst us. We spent the last 15 years fighting with them, but we've stopped doing that. We're working with them because they love salmon, they love to fish side by side with us. We're working on projects together, we're cooperating with one another, we're working hard to resolve conflicts. That's where people need to start, is building positive working relationships with one another around common interests. And that's where it's really at, if we're going to get the changes we want to see.
In the spirit of the highest honor, healing our nations of united resistance to apathy, we're honored to be with Ernie Crey in the lower mainland of Vancouver. Fish handshake, Ernie.
Is that good?
Awesome, thank you.